The first snow of December drifted down in lazy spirals, covering the cold sack in a soft white blanket. The houses of Maple Hollow looked picture perfect, with their twinkling lights and carefully trimmed hedges, but behind the illusion of peace, I could feel tension crackling like frost on the windows. The problem had a name: Karen Whitfield, the self-appointed queen of the HOA. She ruled the neighborhood like a dictator disguised in designer scarves and pearls, and for months she had been stealing my firewood. It started subtly. A few logs missing here, a few there. I thought maybe I'd miscounted or maybe the delivery guy shorted me. But when it kept happening night after night, I knew something was wrong. I decided to check my security feed, but of course the HOA had rules against unapproved cameras facing community spaces. That's what Karen said when she fined me the first time I tried. So I bought a small trail cam and strapped it to the maple tree near my woodpile, hidden just enough to avoid detection. 3 nights later, I saw her. At 4023 M, in her fuzzy robe and slippers, she crept into my yard like some deranged burglar. A flashlight in one hand, a little red wagon in the other. She moved with the practiced caution of someone who knew exactly what they were doing. She looked around, making sure no one was watching, then began loading my firewood into her wagon, humming under her breath as if she were out for an early stroll. I sat in my living room, watching the grainy footage in disbelief, rage bubbling up like a kettle about to scream. The next morning, I marched right up to her front door. She answered with her usual smug smile, hair perfectly curled, coffee mug in hand. "John," she said, with fake sweetness dripping from every syllable. What a surprise. "Do you need something?" "Yeah," I said, holding up my phone. "You're on camera stealing my firewood." Her eyes flickered, just for a second, then she gave a short, dismissive laugh. "That can't be me. Your camera must be malfunctioning. And even if it was me, technically, it's community property." "Community property?" I repeated, my voice rising. "It's on my private lot." She crossed her arms, the smile never leaving her lips. "According to HOA Section 5B, visible storage piles must not exceed 3 feet in height or obstruct the view from the street." "You're in violation, John. I was simply ensuring compliance." "You mean stealing," she shrugged. "Rules are rules. Maybe you should read your homeowner's agreement before accusing people." She shut the door in my face. That was the moment I decided I'd had enough. Everyone else in Maple Hollow had folded under her iron grip, but I wasn't about to let her keep walking all over me. I'd seen her bully neighbors into repainting their houses, dig through trash cans looking for unauthorized recyclables, and once, she even threatened to fine a man for having a dented mailbox. But this time, she picked the wrong person to mess with. That evening, as I sat by my dwindling woodpile, an idea began to form. I didn't want to hurt her, but I wanted her to learn. I wanted her to think twice before taking what didn't belong to her. While rummaging through my grandfather's old shed, I stumbled upon a dusty crate tucked behind a stack of paint cans. Inside were several hollow logs he'd crafted decades ago for woodworking demonstrations. They looked real, same bark, same texture, but they were lightweight and had a hollow center. I ran my hand along the inside, feeling the smooth craftsmanship. That's when the idea hit me like a spark catching dry kindling. I went into town the next morning and bought a small box of black powder from the hunting supply store. Just enough for a loud pop, nothing more. Then I got to work. I filled a few of the hollow logs with a pinch of powder, sealed the ends with resin, and gave them a light dusting of ash so they looked perfectly normal. I placed them right on top of the pile, the most visible and tempting spot. That night I waited. The wind howled softly and the snow glowed under the moonlight. Around 4 in the morning, my camera blinked. Motion detected. I peeked through the blinds and saw her again, that same ridiculous robe, the same sneaky shuffle. She moved to the woodpile, lifted one of the doctored logs, and chuckled as if she just outsmarted the world. Then she took another. My heart pounded, not from fear but from anticipation. She loaded her wagon and disappeared into the night. The next morning was eerily quiet until around 9:15 a.m., when a sharp boom shattered the silence. The sound echoed through the neighborhood like thunder trapped in a tunnel. I rushed to my porch and saw smoke rising from Karen's chimney, gray, thick, and curling into the sky. Seconds later, her front door burst open. She stumbled out coughing, her hair singed, her robe smudged with soot. My fireplace exploded. She screamed, waving her arms in panic. "Somebody tried to kill me!" Neighbors came running from every direction, slipping on the snow as they approached. I stood there, hands in my pockets, trying my best to look concerned. "You all right, Karen?" I called out. Her eyes found mine, blazing with fury and confusion. "You did this! You sabotaged my firewood?" "My firewood?" I said slowly. You mean the firewood you stole? She froze. The murmurs around us grew louder. People were whispering, some laughing under their breath. Within minutes, the police and fire department showed up. They inspected her chimney, found traces of burned powder, and then reviewed the footage from my camera when I showed them. Her face drained of color as the officers saw her dragging that little wagon of logs through the snow again and again. Technically, she wasn't charged. There wasn't enough evidence of intent, but the HOA couldn't ignore the scandal. The board called an emergency meeting that weekend, and by unanimous vote, Karen Whitfield was removed as president. The neighborhood changed overnight. The constant nitpicking, the endless violation notices, the oppressive Karen regime, all gone. That night, as I sat beside my fireplace, the flames dancing warm and bright, I couldn't help but smile. The logs crackled and hissed softly, sparks jumping like tiny fireworks. For the first time all winter, I felt peace. No more stolen wood, no more condescending HA lectures, just the quiet satisfaction of a job well done. Outside, the snow continued to fall, blanketing Maple Hollow in calm white silence once again. But this time, beneath that calm, I knew something had changed forever. And somewhere down the street, I imagined Karen glaring out her window, staring at her blackened chimney, and realizing that maybe, just maybe, she'd picked the wrong neighbor to mess with. 2 weeks had passed since the explosion that everyone in Maple Hollow now called the Karen Kaboom. It had spread through the neighborhood faster than gossip at a church bake sale. You couldn't walk down the street without overhearing someone whispering about it. Some said she'd been trying to light damp wood. Others joked she'd tried to summon Santa early. But everyone knew the truth. Karen had stolen the wrong logs from the wrong man. For the first time since moving there, I felt a strange kind of peace. My phone didn't buzz with HOA messages about unsightly objects or unapproved color palettes. The little slips of paper that used to appear in my mailbox, warnings and fines signed by K. Whitfield, HOA president, stopped coming. The street felt lighter, quieter, but it didn't last. People like Karen don't just disappear. They regroup. They seethe. It started small. One morning, I found my mailbox leaning at an odd angle, as if someone had kicked it in passing. I shrugged it off. The snowplow might have clipped it. But then the recycling bins vanished. I checked with the waste company. They hadn't picked them up. 2 days later, I found one of them halfway down by the storm drain, spray painted with the word T-S-H-I-E-F. The next week, I woke up to a note taped to my front door. The handwriting was familiar, loopy, and deliberate. It read, "Some people don't belong in Maple Hollow." I stood there, staring at the note for a long time. It didn't take a detective to figure out who left it. That night, I reinforced my fences and replaced the small trail cameras with high-resolution ones that sent footage straight to my phone. I wasn't afraid. I just wanted evidence. I wanted her to dig her own hole this time. I posted a new sign on my gate, Tiras Basaris while befell media and fafatirade. It wasn't just a warning. It was a promise. 3 nights later at 3:47 a.m., my phone buzzed. Motion detected. I opened the feed, and there she was again, Karen Whitfield, bundled up in a puffy jacket and scarf, holding a flashlight and a can of black spray paint. She crept toward my fence, crouched down, and began spraying something in big, sloppy letters. When she finished, she took a step back to admire her work. I zoomed in. The words were uneven but readable. Firewood. She actually thought I'd started that explosion. The irony almost made me laugh. The next morning, I didn't go to the police. I didn't confront her. I simply printed still images from the footage, placed them in an envelope, and dropped it anonymously into the HOA board's mailbox. That afternoon, Karen stormed out of her house and tore down the HOA's community bulletin board, the one she used to fill with her endless lists of rules. It was the first real crack in her composure I'd ever seen. She looked like a queen dethroned, trying to hold her crown together with duct tape. But fate, it seemed, wasn't done teaching her lessons. A week later, the HOA, now under temporary leadership, announced a winter bonfire celebration to restore neighborly unity after recent unfortunate events. I almost laughed when I saw the flyer. The irony of it was too perfect. Then I noticed who had volunteered to provide firewood for the event. Karen. The very same Karen who had sworn never to touch a log again was now hauling in wood for a community bonfire. I didn't have to guess where she got it. Later that evening, I saw her backyard lights flicker on as she opened her old shed. From my porch, I could just make out her silhouette moving around inside, dragging something heavy. It didn't take a genius to figure out what she was doing. She had kept the leftover hollow logs. Maybe she thought they were fine this time, or maybe she just couldn't resist the chance to show everyone she was back in charge. I didn't interfere. Some things, you just let happen. The night of the bonfire was bitterly cold. The sky was clear, stars scattered across it like pinholes in velvet. Families gathered at the park, bundled in scarves and hats, mugs of hot cocoa steaming in their hands. Kids ran through the snow, laughing as the HOA's new interim president gave a short, awkward speech about community warmth. Then came Karen's moment. She stepped forward, proud and smiling again, holding her chin high as she stood beside the massive bonfire pit. "I brought the best logs you'll ever burn," she announced, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Handpicked from my personal stash!" She stacked the wood herself, ignoring offers of help. Her movements were sharp, defiant, determined. As if she were reclaiming her authority, one log at a time. I stayed home, sitting by my own fireplace, sipping cocoa, watching the flames dance quietly in front of me. The peace felt almost too good to be true. At 7:15 p.m. it happened. The muffled boom echoed faintly through the distance, followed by a brief flash of orange light against the night sky. My phone started buzzing. Messages from neighbors. "Did you hear that? The bonfire exploded. Karen's okay, but you won't believe this." I didn't need to see it to know. But curiosity got the better of me. I put on my coat and walked down to the park. By the time I got there, the scene was chaos. Fire trucks parked by the curb, people huddled in blankets, a few still laughing nervously. The bonfire pit was scorched black, the picnic tables charred at the edges. And in the middle of it all stood Karen. Hair singed again, eyebrows practically gone, her coat dusted in ash. "I don't understand," she shouted, her voice breaking. "It happened again. It was supposed to be safe." No one said a word. The firefighters told her it looked like some of the logs were hollowed out and filled with something flammable. One of the kids even said, "Hey, those look like the same ones from your house last time." The crowd murmured. Karen's eyes darted from face to face, desperate, searching for sympathy that wasn't there anymore. She tried to blame me again, but no one listened this time. The spell was broken. By the end of the week, the HOA held another emergency meeting. Without her. She resigned before they could vote her out for good. The neighborhood decided they'd had enough of rules and fines and intimidation. The HOA dissolved entirely. Maple Hollow became a better place almost overnight. People started painting their houses however they wanted. Kids played in the street without noise violation complaints. For once, it felt like a neighborhood, not a regime. As for me, I rebuilt my woodpile. Taller this time. Right in the same spot she used to complain about. No one said a word. Every time I walked by it, I couldn't help but grin. That winter, the snow came heavier than usual, blanketing everything in silence. I'd sit by my fire at night, listening to the crackle and pop of real wood, feeling a calm I hadn't felt in years. And sometimes, when the flames flared just right, I thought of Karen, the woman who tried to burn me and ended up burning herself instead. Some people never learn, but the ones who do, they remember forever.